So for this video, let's talk about how you can export and save your files as a video media. Now we're used to going up to control and testing our movie from here. And whenever you do this, this is always going to create an SWF file. That's actually an old version called Shockwave flash file that allows you to play it within a browser media or whatever else that has Adobe Animate. What we want to do is to save this in a file format that can be played on any kind of video media player like QuickTime or Windows Media Player or whatever you have. The first thing we need to do is to look at our Publish settings. If you go up to File and go down to your Publish settings, one of the things that you may have noticed whenever you tested your audio is that your audio sounds a little bit duller and lower quality. This is because in order to play and quickly render everything in Animate, it needs to dumb down the quality of it. You can actually change that up in these Publish settings. Under the audio stream, if you click on this will open up your dialog box that allows you to change up the bitrate and the quality of your MP3 audio. Now, usually you want to keep your compression to something that's nice and manageable, so MP3 tends to be my default that I keep it on. We'll also keep everything in stereo, so I'm not going to convert it to a mono stream, but changing your bitrate will allow you to add extra quality to the audio that you have. Now, increasing the bitrate is also going to increase the amount of memory that it takes to save something up. So there it is, a good balancing act. Usually anything 32 kilobytes per second or higher is good for good audio to work with. Think of this as the resolution of an image as the bitrate is to the quality of the audio. So I'm going to increase this up to about 80 kilobytes per second and change your quality from fast to best. We'll say OK to this. Now this is good for streaming the audio, so in other words playing it back as you're working, but the audio event also needs to be changed up too. So let's again change this up to 80 kilobytes per second and change it to best from here. This way both of those will be done and stay the same. Now when we say OK, if you go through and play your audio, you'll notice a good increase in the quality of that audio once it's outputted. Finally, to render your video, let's go up to File. Instead of saving it, we need to export your image. So go down to Export, and we're going to choose Export Video and Media. This is going to bring up your export dialog box, and from here we can set up our file however we want. Now by default, we want to keep it the same size that we've been working on, so we're going to keep our render size exactly the same. And we're going to tell it to still keep the same stage color of whatever you had for your background. Now we want the entire movie that we're creating, and the format is going to be what's most important. When you click on Format, you can see Adobe Animate has a variety of different kinds of ways of exporting your file. Some of these are movies, and some of these are just plain still images, and depending on the needs, you can change it up as necessary. Some of these are used more often than others. For instance, H.264 will allow this to be saved as a regular MP4 method. There's also MPEG-4, MPEG-2, and there's even a QuickTime movie output. The kind that I want you to choose is the H.264. This will open it up as a regular movie file that can be played on a variety of different media formats. So with that selected, make sure you know where your output file is going to. In my case, I've selected my folder that I've been saving everything into. But if you need to, you can click on the little folder and choose where it's going to be saved to as well. Then, when you hit Export, this will take a couple of seconds, but it's going to go through and save it up as a movie file. Now, once it finishes saving in Animate, Adobe's going to open up another sub-program called Media Encoder that'll finish out the saving process. Media Encoder is a great little mini program that allows you to save a variety of different file formats, and this should do everything automatically. It's going to add that video to your queue, and you can see down here at the very bottom, this is where it's going to save up and to do the final rendering to save it as your movie file. Once it's done, you can see it's been successfully created. We can say OK. Then we can go into our folder, and you can see here I've got my MP4 file nice and saved up.
By Gerard Manley Hopkins.
This MP4 file, along with your final Flash file, is what I want you to upload to Moodle for your project grade.